Welcome back. It's been a good while, almost a month since I've posted any content to my channel, and the reason is I've been super tied up with work. Things have been really progressing well on the work front, at least, as well with my projects. So to recap where I left things off, I believe at that point I had set up the Ubiquiti custom NVR, so you can essentially go and purchase an NVR device from Ubiquiti. But when so the device you purchase from Ubiquiti is somewhere around $300 to $400 odd, but you basically get like a set-top box with very limited room to upgrade, and therefore I built my own very basic PC tailored to the needs of the NVR task. The most important aspect really was were the WD purple drives, which I picked two 4 terabyte drives and I put them into a BTRFS RAID 1 mirror setup, and that's been running great. The wires, the Cat5 Ethernet cabling, which is also from Ubiquiti. I picked up the Tough Carrier series cabling, a whole box of 1,000 feet, which I imported from the States because I couldn't find any supply here that had anything of similar grade, because I wanted the UV protected cabling, this is going outdoor. Normally you can just send the cable with some tacking to a wall, but what I did was, for additional protection, I sent it through what's called conduit. It was, I believe, a quarter inch gauge conduit. So there are 2 cameras in the front of this property, and it has been running close to about over a month essentially, and has been performing great. I can essentially log in to the camera system from my mobile phone, and that I'm going to come to another point regarding setting up an open VPN server within my home data center essentially, which lets me VPN in from the outside into my home network and watch the video stream, which I've been doing for several weeks now, and it is going great. Actually, I prepared a separate video on the topic, and I might come back to posting that on my channel at some point, because things have backed up, and the content that I've prepared over the past few weeks no longer feels relevant, in the sense that I need to spend a lot more time video editing to basically get them into a form that'll make sense, and it'll be that you as an audience may enjoy to watch. So there's a good chance I'll have to redo a lot of this stuff, but what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to try and mask my IP address details very manually, right, and just show you my phone. So, and that's a total fail, isn't it? It's an ISO fail. So bear with me, let me get the ISO reduced. Let's drop this ISO a whole heap, and let's see if I can do this without. Right, so now you can see I have I disabled Wi-Fi, and I've got the OpenVPN connection running. So I'm going to take it off screen. Now the OpenVPN connection is running, because when I go to my app, you will now see. But let me do that again. So here we go. I'm firing up the Ubiquiti app, and what you'll see up here, it says 4G VPN, and then it shows one of the NVRs I set up on my home network, and I was going to ask for my fingerprint. So there we go, and then it lists the two cameras. So I'm just going to touch the top tab. There we go, and right now we should be seeing a live feed from the front of the property. It's what's it? It's past 6 p.m. and it's a little bit rainy outside, drizzling away. Unfortunately, I don't see any traffic on the road, so it may look like a still feed, but it's 1080p footage. And right now, since it's gotten dark, both the cameras have kicked into their IR, infrared night mode. So this is operating quite nicely. So I'm just going to pump the ISO back up, right? And I'm pretty happy with how it's been performing. The way it works, to give you an idea, is that the first component to this whole network transformation was that I shifted to fiber, and having moved to fiber, I was able to get my ISP to issue a static IP. I could have done it with the previous carrier as well, but it made little sense given the issues I was having with a company here called Dialog, and they offer home broadband service over LTE. So you essentially get an LTE router. What I found was, as I power the device on, maybe for the next 1 hour, it will do its 3 megabytes per second limit or so, but that's the speed at which that they kind of cap things. It gets worse when it's peak time, but if it's like 2 in the morning, you can get about 3 megabytes per second if you're lucky, and within an hour or so, the speed will start to drop, like dramatically, to the point that it really slows it. You can't even watch a 1080p stream on YouTube. It starts buffering. It's that bad. Unfortunately, I was stuck with this for 7 months when I should have really switched to fiber at the beginning of the year, which is something I really regret, because there's a whole lot of money wasted giving it to that ISP, because I believe they are throttling and or messing with the power on their end, and they can maybe attenuate the signal. It's not entirely confirmed. They're not going to cop to it, but so I've switched to another ISP, essentially the largest in the country, and now it's called FTTH, fiber to the home, the whole street, this whole area, because I'm in a very central commercial hub. Got it to the house. It's 100 megabits per second line, which translates to 12.5 megabytes per second, and I can hit that any time of the day with any download, essentially. So from torrents to even a single P2P connection, it can ramp. It will certainly ramp to 12.5. And the more dramatic and important change that is really valuable to me is the improved latency, which also is greatly exaggerated on the Dialog LTE. For example, on the Dialog LTE, when I'm playing Dota 2 to the US, to the US essentially, my pings, the latency delay is called a ping. You can basically ping the server. The outgoing inbound time is what's called latency, and it was somewhere in the range of 300 milliseconds. It's terrible. And now with the fiber line, it's below 200, and when I'm playing on the closest servers to me, which is Southeast Asia, is the option you can choose, I'm getting pings as low as 54 milliseconds, which means I can finally enjoy Dota 2 to a level that doesn't put me at a really silly disadvantage, because when you start getting into battles and your connection suffers, it means however good you are, or in my case I'm pretty bad, but I'm still learning obviously, even if you're like a 10-year Dota player veteran at the top of your game, if you're at 300 milliseconds and you're giving commands and they just don't get there, and the other guy is buffing you and casting spells or whatever, you're dead. There's just basically no point playing the game at that point. So at least now it's enjoyable. It's a smooth experience. And also to recap something on this point, previously I still have it. It's on the floor at the moment though. It's the what I used to call my Skylake server. So if you go into my channel, you'll see November last year, the first PC I built for last year at least was the X99 6850K, what I call the Broadwell E gaming and productivity box. At the time I called it the Linux and gaming rig, and that's the name of the channel. But that purpose has migrated. It's running 24/7. The box what you see on the Predator right now is that box. It's a Windows 10 install. It's mainly for gaming, for compiling these YouTube videos in Adobe Premiere, for me to interact with the Scarlett 2i4 USB interface, and just general Chrome use. Nothing too stressful beyond that. But when I'm playing Dota, for example, right now, it's doing well over 200 FPS with all the settings at the max. The GTX 1080 hits about 82, sometimes even 83 degrees with the AC on, and AC keeping the room really cool. So it's a really high overclock on that sense. The box itself is overclocked. I just fixed the important issue. I installed a brand new UEFI on the Sabertooth Tough X99 motherboard, and what I couldn't do last year, I finally did it. I got the RAM to overclock to 3200 megahertz. No, sorry, this is at the 3000 megahertz, well, what you call MTS kit from Corsair, the Dominator Plats. So it's running at its full potential in terms of the overclocked RAM. I'm certainly I could try pushing, maybe get a 3600 kit, but the price of RAM is ridiculous. I should know because the 32 gigs of ECC RDIMMs in the box behind me, the one at the real back, that's the ZFS server. So that's the one I built this year. That RAM kit alone was over $500. Crazy expensive, but that's for ECC. So in any case, this is the 6850K. Then the second server, so this was made in, I think, sometime August-ish, 2016. Then in November 2016, the second PC I built, which I dubbed since then, was the Skylake rig, because it's the 6700K overclockable Skylake chip. The idea there was I want to have the Skylake box downstairs in the home theater as a gaming home theater PC, and that's really what's going to happen to it now. It's because I've added further systems. And so you'll be wondering, why did I call this the Linux and gaming box? Because at that time I was dual booting Linux and Windows 10. Now that's no longer the case. The role of my Linux brain of the data center for all my work and hacking and everything is now something really incredible. And guess what it is, guys? I went for an AMD Ryzen Threadripper 1950X. That is 16 cores with 32 threads, overclockable to running. That's 32 cores at 4 gigahertz per second. Just try to comprehend what that means. I on a full workload, or essentially it was a synthetic benchmark. I won't say it's an actual benchmark because it was running Jack the Ripper, FFmpeg, encryption tools, compression tools. I was able to get, without applying a full overclock, meaning you can set the cores to run at 4 gigahertz all the time. Instead I let XFR do its thing, and what that means is at 100% load it will boost up to the 4 gigahertz limit as much as it thermal throttles essentially. And I clocked in the hardware testing, but the tool suite at least, it was pulling somewhere around 180 watts just into the CPU, because it is a 180 TDP CPU as I recall, and the wall wart I have on the Threadripper box was pulling somewhere around 260 watts. All that's inside the box is the motherboard, the CPU, 32 gigs of DDR4, 3200 megahertz RAM. I'm going to come back to that, and a GTX 1070, which when I'm in Fedora 26 and running these tools, Fedora basically tells me that it's running, the card is only pulling 4 watts because I'm not running anything. It's only consuming minimum power to power the GUI in Fedora 26. And the GUI I refer to is Geno. So that was pretty incredible. I'm really having a lot of fun. And so back in November, at that time what the Skylake box mainly did was I ran my Linux stuff on that. So I had Docker running, various Docker containers for my dev and work and hacking and learning as well. And one of those containers that would run 24/7 is basically an RTMP module loaded into Nginx, which lets me basically stream my Dota games from here to that box. And that box does two things. It recompresses the stream from very high output from here down to whatever format I've set, and it saves them as lossless FLV videos. So I have an archive on that machine, and then it pushes that stream out to Twitch and YouTube at the same time. And now, given that I've got so much more horsepower, a much more beefier line, I can push simultaneous streams out to many more services if I wanted to. Right now I only believe that Twitch and YouTube are worth bothering with, but I will check to see if there's anything else. And my gaming stream can go to more platforms, which is pretty cool. And so that's going to be one very minor role it's going to have. But the whole purpose, so you'll be wondering, why am I buying a 32 core system? Basically, it's because I plan to be doing a lot of virtualization work with this box. I plan to do it with KVM. I'm looking forward to playing with IOMMU, but there might be a need for me to either change the motherboard at some point or wait a bit till Gigabyte get their act together. But this might be another YouTube video, but those in the industry are struggling to get IOMMU working in Linux with Threadripper. They are working on it. So far, Aorus, the X399A board, there's a guy on Reddit who said he's been able to get it to work. Wendell, a big shout out to Wendell at Level 1 Techs. I'm really enjoying the time I've had since joining the forum, and his videos are incredible. Everybody knows that. So I've been learning a lot of this stuff from him and his channel, and the progress he's made is really amazing. And from what I take it, I believe he's mainly helping out with MSI and maybe the ASRock Taichi board. I don't think he's working so much with the Gigabyte as from what I've gathered. I'm not so sure. At least his review of the Gigabyte X399 was somewhat positive, but his main troubling comments were that the IOMMU, which I have verified to a certain degree, at least on my box, are muddled up. So like you basically have the PCH and you have a whole bunch of stuff under one group. So you can't essentially split stuff up and assign them to different VMs, which is unfortunate. So I may end up switching out the Threadripper board if that happens, because I won't be able to use this system to its full potential, which is the whole point of buying it in the first place. And of course I'm jumping to Threadripper, and one thing I left out was the first build for 2017 was in fact the ZFS box. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, I believe this has the Asus X399 workstation board with, what was it? It was a Intel Xeon E5 2620 V4 or V5 as I recall, which is an 8-core CPU. It supports ECC, and it's basically the cheapest E5, the most recent E5 that goes on that board. I wasn't looking to spend more cash on that because I wanted it to have a bit of grunt for VM work, but not super critical. So sure, I could have maybe gone with an E3 board and E3 config, but I couldn't find an E3 config that would work for my exact use case. And I've thrown a GTX 1050 just for when I need to access the BIOS. And as I said before, Dominator, Plat, 32 gigs, DDR4. Oh wait, I'm sorry. No, not in that one. I'm wrong. Scratch that. On the ZFS box, it's Corsair. No, it's Crucial. Sorry. Total brain fart there. Yes, it's Crucial RAM, DDR4, 32 gigs, RDIMMs, which are ECC memory, and I have confirmed that ECC is running at boot, and ECC is running in FreeBSD because it's running FreeNAS. And FreeNAS is another kingpin in my overall design. It has now allowed me to migrate my Synology stack. So to recap about my Synology stack, the way it worked was in 2014, as I recall, I purchased the DSM 1518 Plus, which is, no sorry, 1515 Plus, that's the one. The 1515 Plus is a 5-bay NAS from Synology. And then in 2015, January or December, I picked up the 1815 Plus, which is the 8-bay NAS. And the plus sign for each of them means that they are encryption grade, meaning the CPU has the on-chip AES or ANI module. So it does hardware encryption and decryption, meaning it's faster and all that. So I was running them in a configuration where the 1515 was primary and the 1815 was secondary. So my goal here was to set up the ZFS box, migrate all my data to the ZFS box, right? Get rid of the 5-bay and make the 8-bay my secondary redundancy. So in the original scenario, the 5-bay was primary, the 8-bay was secondary. So now the 8-bay still stays the secondary, right? But the ZFS is now the primary. However, there's another caveat. My 8-bay is the primary for the iSCSI volume that all my work relies on. The reason is it's easier to set it up using the Synology software for snapshotting and replication of the iSCSI. And what I'm doing now is I'm running rsync tasks from the mounted iSCSI volume to the ZFS. So it's a wee bit janky that way. Ideally, I need to spend some time and get iSCSI working on FreeNAS. It's just that I didn't spend much time because you have to click around a lot more stuff to get the iSCSI target and the initiators all working. Whereas on the Synology, it's something I got working before, so I know how to do it in like 5-10 minutes compared to spending 1 to 2 hours to testing and playing around in FreeNAS essentially. And just to give you a recap, the Synology stack before had 11 drives. It still does now at the moment. It used to be 5 drives in the primary and the remainder in the 8-bay unit. They were WD Red Pro 4TB 7200 RPM NAS drives. And so what I've done is in the ZFS box, I got the cheaper WD 4TB Red NAS drives at 5400 RPM because I didn't want the cost factor on that to be so much higher. Because I have another plan to reuse these Red Pros later on, and I'll come back to that. So what I've done now is there's only 3 Red Pros in the 5 bay, which is turned off because I'm gonna either sell it, or I'm really not sure what I'm gonna do with it right now. And then the 8 bay is fully populated with the 8 drives, and right now actually the usable space, what we call usable space, is about 20 terabytes on each box, meaning the primary ZFS has a little bit less, and the secondary 1815 plus has about 21 terabytes, which works nicely because I'm doing a little bit of stuff on the 1815 that might consume a bit more data space if the ZFS got to full capacity, which thankfully it hasn't. And so that covers my data backup strategy. And bear with me, when I say backup, this is more a high availability backup. I do realize that an actual backup means you copy your data offline and you store it in 2 different locations, one on-site, one off-site, inside fireproof safes and blah blah blah. But what I've done instead is my backup strategy is I have the high availability, I have some redundancy, and I'm offloading and keeping copies on WD Black hard drive. So basically, I'll just order a WD Black 4TB, and I will every month or every 2 weeks just back up my core. Essentially, what I've come to dub my critical data stuff. That if all of this got destroyed, hypothetically, and touch wood, it's not going to happen, right? That critical data would let me continue my business and get on with stuff as much as possible. So that's what I dub as critical data. Whereas, and as you can imagine, of the 20 terabytes, it's a sliver of what's critical data. Most of this is all the data to power the home theater downstairs. So that's the main use case for the high volume. Because as a friend of mine just said yesterday, I'm a hoarder of everything on the internet in terms of documentaries and anything that's of quality value, like series of what NASA puts out in everything in 1080p now. I would like to find larger, like 4K content and stuff, but I haven't. Like National Geographic has some excellent series, and so I'm just archiving everything as much as possible. And so that covers the data storage aspect, and so my plan progress from data storage being done to the next level, advancing my compute facilities, and that's where Threadripper has come in. So everything has now worked together. The network has been upgraded. I've got my primary gaming sorted out, my data storage sorted out, my compute needs sorted out, and then on the floor or inside a box, I've got 2 systems doing nothing because I need to get them going. So the first system is the Skylake 6700K from what I had from November last year. So that's going to eventually get set up into a box as an HTPC gaming rig downstairs in the home theater. And the new rig that's in another box is a 7700K with an Asus Z270 TUF mainboard. The reason I just went for the TUF is because it has 2 Gigabit Ethernet ports, and I'm going to set up pfSense. So that's a project I was supposed to finish last weekend, but the cooler I was using wouldn't fit, given the armor on the board was around the VRMs was knocking the heat pipes on the cooler. So I had my friend who lives in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'm not going to mention his name because I haven't asked for his permission, but just a big wave out, a shout out, and say thank you so much. Oh my gosh, he's been a lifesaver. He's been like my mule friend. He's been mule in the sense is like if I was a drug cartel and I needed someone to send me my drugs, which this stuff kind of is, to intercept my stuff from Amazon, repackage it and send it off through, because for whatever reason when you go on Amazon.com and you choose not to a cooler, it says this item cannot be shipped to Sri Lanka. Thank you very much for living on an island in the middle of nowhere. So fair enough, Amazon. Touche, well played. And so yeah, so he sent me a second shipment with the second Noctua cooler that just came yesterday. I had a packed day yesterday, and I'm looking forward to getting that rig set up tomorrow maybe. I don't have a case for it yet, but I just found a pretty decent box from Bitphoenix of all the brands that is going to suit my needs for the time being. So I need to place an order for that later on. So I'm not going to rush on that right now because I just plan to run the pfSense router set up on a table, something down there, because I would say for the next 2 to 3 months I'll just be hacking on it. So you can just sit on a motherboard box. I'll just have like the NIC slot in, and I don't need a graphics card because the 7700K has onboard graphics itself, so that's a nice plus. And I already have a 32 gigs of ballistics crucial RAM just sitting around doing nothing. So I'll just use that on the pfSense box for the time being. So that's actually what I've been doing for the last 4 to 5 weeks. I've given you a complete walkthrough of all the tech related stuff that has consumed all my time during the weekends, because during the week I'm essentially working from around 11 p.m. till 8 a.m. in sync with Pacific Standard Time, and that means I tend to have breakfast around 8 a.m. and it depends on how hyped up I'm on coffee and espresso and caffeine essentially. And so basically when I code through the night, I have trouble sleeping afterwards because my mind is so active and I have like hundreds of projects to do and all this stuff. So my routine is usually to go onto my Trello and just quickly update all the hacking projects I have to do. Things I have like my own things of what I call TIL, things I need to learn. And so I work on that for a short while. And then I might end up in a zombie state, which is what I call, because it's like I'm tired but I can't go to sleep because I don't feel sleepy because my mind's active and the caffeine is still coursing through my brain, even though the half-life should, anyways, yeah, the half-life of caffeine, something to ponder later on. And so on days that I'm lucky, I would fall asleep, say about 9 a.m. and then I'm usually out for about 5 to 6 hours. The trouble is I keep waking up after maybe 4 hours of sleep, and then I come back here to hack on something, and then I get distracted. So the trouble is I've basically been burning the candle at multiple ends, trying to balance my work commitments and all the DIY I've been doing at home. Installing the networking aspects was pretty complicated given I only had one workman come here on certain days and essentially the weekend, and he has been flaky at best on some days with excuses and other engagements, because normally he'll say I'm going to come on Saturday and then he wouldn't turn up essentially. So then that basically moves or delays the whole networking job to the next weekend or Monday, because due to the time difference here I start Monday night and I finish Saturday morning. That's my American work schedule essentially. And so that also gives you a bit of an insight into what a day in the life of a nut job is like. So I've rambled on a lot in this video, and so anyways, I hope this just gives you a bit of a recap as to why I've kind of been away. You would have seen I enjoyed a killing spree on Friday the 13th. I went on a rampage playing Axe on Dota 2, and that's because I've got the RTMP streaming working again, and quite a few more goodies have been coming through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut through to just showing you the kind of stuff I've been picking off Amazon in case you're interested in grabbing any of these things and improving your workspace, your gaming experience and all that. So I'll just run through a couple of the interesting random bits and bobs I've been just ordering off Amazon, because as a tech junkie, and given that I'm scaling out my gaming and home operation, these are some stuff that some I would say some are needed, some are things I'd like to have, and some things are nice to have. So let's put in those three categories, and I'll just run into the list. So let's jump through to that. I'm going to walk you through a couple of things I picked up from Amazon. So what I did was, because I don't want to show you the name to which these were shipped through, I injected some JavaScript into Chrome to replace the name with my tag BSOD Mike. So the first thing, so prior to this, I used to always order everything from B&H. But Amazon, I discovered it shipped some items to Sri Lanka, and they ship items as duty paid shipping, which is very handy, which means it doesn't you don't have to be inconvenienced by the customs here taking time to basically detain your package and then charge a horrendous fee, whereas here you straight away get told what kind of taxes you're paying. So the first one was the Gigabyte X399 Aorus Gaming 7 board. The gaming tag is just ridiculous. I know it's just silly that the entire industry is hell-bent on either naming something RGB or gaming. Anyways, I guess gaming means it's going to sell, right? And then let me also zoom in a bit more, and let's not look at the JavaScript stuff because you are not here for that. Alright, there we go. So that's just some books. Here we go. So this is the Corsair Dominator Plat 16 gigs, 2 kits. Each one is 3200 MTS. And on the Threadripper box, after the latest UEFI update, I had to disable the XMP profile, and I was able to get them to run at 3200, which has been a huge challenge on a lot of the AMD systems because you have to get the right RAM, and not all RAM are the same. There are different chips, some with Samsung B die. This kit is a dual ranked Samsung E die kit, which is harder to overclock, but so far my overclock is holding. And then in another order, I picked up a new mouse and a second Corsair RGB keyboard. This is a K95, which is like the top end with speed switches. So these two upgrade my gaming Dota setup. So far it's been pretty fantastic. And then I grabbed some other tools. I grabbed a Noctua. This is the one that I need to repair, or essentially get the PF Sense box up and running. And I picked up a knife because I'm into knives, and a network card, which is a dual Intel NIC from StarTech. These are the 350 NICs, and it has a lot of the router like features that you want. So things like VLANs, trunking, tagging, all that stuff are supported. Some high quality thermal grease from Thermal Grizzly. It's called Cryonaut. It's got the highest rated TIM material that has the highest thermal transfer that I've seen. And then I'm still waiting on this order to ship. It's an Antline Mod Mic 5, which I can basically stick to the side of my Grado headsets. So just to show you, these are the Grados, and let me refocus on the Grado. So what happens is you basically stick the Antline, this little metallic thingy, you stick that here, and then you just basically knock the Antline onto that, and just held by a magnet, a very powerful neodymium magnet. And then this can turn into a gaming headset, because I don't really want to pick up another really crappy gaming headset for the purpose of gaming. And let's focus back on the screen. One moment, it's having trouble reacquiring focus. There we go. And the other things, I picked up a second Coolmaster Master Keys Pro 5. This is the Cherry MX Brown. That's because I'm running 3 mechanical keyboards here at the moment, and I need a 4th one essentially. And then I'm also finally grabbing a decent broadcasting mic for the Scarlett USB interface, so my recording quality for YouTube videos will be much higher, and I'm hoping to get into maybe doing some podcasting and stuff, because that'll be really interesting, because I want to start to podcast about things I code on and things that I could maybe teach other people through YouTube as well. So that's just a very quick run through of the things I've picked up off Amazon. If you whoops, let me just jump out of this and get this back up again. So what I'm trying to say is, if you enjoyed this video, hit like, hit subscribe, let me know what you think. Am I totally nuts? No, don't tell me that. We know the answer to that one, right? Certified Arkham Asylum grade. Do I get thrown into the room with Alice Tetch's brother, whatever Tetch's name is, in Gotham? I don't know. Maybe we'll be cellmates. And well, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I hope to spend a bit more time doing my videos differently, so that I spend time preparing more on collecting the B-roll, because I don't do B-roll normally. I'll try and do a bit more B-roll, and planning out my videos a bit more, and also spending maybe 1 or 2 weekends to video edit the videos, because my previous style was just to shoot it, get it off the camera, maybe spend 5-10 minutes just stitching it all together, cleaning up the audio where needed, and getting it up as quickly as possible. But what I find is the general quality of vlogging on my channel is pretty terrible, and I'm sorry about that. Just that I don't have as much time to increase the quality of it until now. It's not that I have more time now, it's just that I plan to take longer time between videos, but at least when something does go up on my channel, it won't be total crap, apart from my ranting and raving and all that stuff. Anyways, it has been a long video, so thanks for watching. Peace out. Bye.